I talked about it already that Great Britain is relying on the expansion of nuclear power in order to supply itself with energy in a climate-friendly manner and independently of so-called tyrants. But the example of a current new building shows how expensive this approach is. The new Hinkley Point C nuclear power plant is expected to cover up to 7% of England's electricity needs. But there are always delays in construction, and construction costs are also increasing. The planned Hinkley Point C nuclear power plant could cost up to 40 billion euros and will not go online until 2031 at the earliest. This is a setback for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the European nuclear power movement. The construction of the British Hinkley Point C nuclear power plant in Somerset will be significantly more expensive than planned. As the French energy company Électricité de France, the EDF, announced on Tuesday evening, the costs for the nuclear reactor could increase to up to £35 billion. That's the equivalent of a good 40 billion euros. At the start of planning in 2016, the new building was expected to cost £18 billion and be completed in 2025. In 2022, there was talk of a maximum of £26 billion, and in the worst-case scenario, the construction period could drag on until 2031. That's what EDF has now warned. A second reactor is scheduled to go online shortly afterwards, and the French state-owned company is planning the construction and wants to operate the nuclear facility later. As with other infrastructure projects, we have found that construction is progressing more slowly than hoped, and we are facing inflation, labor and material shortages, said Stuart Crooks, managing director of Hinkley Point C, in a memo to the financial information service Bloomberg, according to a report by the financial information service Bloomberg employees. In addition, the pandemic delayed construction, they say. While the last nuclear power plants in Germany here went offline last year, Great Britain is planning to expand nuclear power. In this way, the country is trying to counteract the significant decline in its nuclear power production. In 2022 alone, the UK had to take 3 reactors offline due to age. And that's why hope lies in the Hinkley Point C replacement power plant. The plant is expected to supply up to 6 million households with electricity. But construction has been delayed for years. At the start of the project in 2007, then EDF boss Vincent de Rivas declared boldly that for Christmas 2017, turkeys would be cooked using nuclear power from Hinkley. And today, the facility is far from operational. And the French company EDF is the builder and owner of the plant. The nuclear power plant has not yet produced any electricity, and EDF recently announced that it was experiencing further delays and higher costs, as I said. And that is quite something far away from what it was at 2016. And the figures might even still change. Critics assume that the costs could rise significantly, taking into account current construction and material prices again. The mega project is also getting out of hand in terms of timing. The grid connection should actually take place in 2027. And as I said, according to the latest schedule, a connection is probably not possible until 2031. The earliest date of commission is 2029, and EDF considers 3 different temporal scenarios. In an internal note to employees, the project's managing director Stuart Crooks attributes the deviations from plan to various reasons. As with other major infrastructure projects, construction was slower than hoped, and we faced inflation, labor, material shortages, in addition to the disruption caused by COVID and Brexit. Oh, he used the B word. According to Crooks, the increased project costs will not affect the price of electricity. Instead, the shareholders should bear the additional costs. However, prices may continue to rise in the coming years due to inflation. The International Economic Forum for Renewable Energies, the IWR, assumes that the price per kilowatt hour will be 16.7 cents when operation starts in 2027. Any additional delay further increased costs. It needs to be seen what the high investment costs and long construction period will not have an impact on the price of electricity. I'm not sure about that. And the environmental organization Greenpeace criticized the delay as further evidence that nuclear power is an overpriced technology that does not bring the hope for success in the fight against global warming. There is already a wealth of evidence that phasing out nuclear power would be better for energy bills, while renewables can reduce carbon emissions in less than half the time. That's at least what Greenpeace UK Policy Director Doug Parr said in a statement. The British government sees it differently, of course. It plans to build another large nuclear power plant after Hinkley Point C. In the long term, it wants to cover a quarter of its electricity needs with nuclear energy. And as I said, Germany had the last 3 nuclear power plants taken offline in April 2023. And Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, however, declared in mid-January that nuclear power was the perfect antidote to the country's energy problems. It's green, cheaper in the long term, and will ensure Britain's energy security, he said. And Energy Minister Claire Continue said Britain would never again be dependent on tyrants like Russian President Vladimir Putin for energy. The development of new nuclear power plants in the United Kingdom has been fraught with cost overruns and delays, and there are a number of factors that have contributed to this. Of course, nuclear power plants are complex and expensive to build, and the regulatory process is also lengthy and complex. And this means that there is a high degree of uncertainty around the costs and timelines of nuclear projects. And the UK has not built a new nuclear power plant in over 30 years, and the industry has lost much of its expertise in this area. That's why the French are doing this. And this had made it difficult to attract contractors and suppliers for new projects, and has also led to delays as new teams are brought up to speed. The cost of materials and labor has been rising in recent years, and this has put upward pressure on the costs of the new nuclear projects. And this has indeed been exacerbated by the global COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted supply chains and caused shortages of materials. And now Brexit has caused shortages of workers. And there is a significant amount of public opposition to nuclear power in the UK, and this has made it difficult for developers to obtain planning permission for new projects. And this opposition has also led to delays as developers are forced to address concerns from local communities. As a result of these factors, the cost of new nuclear power plants in the UK has spiraled out of control. And as I said, Hinkley Point C is the best example for this, which will now go to up to, who knows what, even more than 40 billion euros. But nevertheless, I think that completely phasing out nuclear power is not an option at this time. People are of different opinion, unfortunately also both governments in Germany since then. But I still have my personal opinion here. Nevertheless, if you want to see something else, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.